Hey guys, welcome to Testin' with Destin, which is the name I have opted to call this this video just for fun. And I'm finally able to actually test an upcoming hero, which is Ma, who will be the next fusion. And I'm really excited because I have not been able to test a lot of these heroes since I do not have test server, as a lot of you know. So big thanks to Oracle for letting me use his Forerunner account to test out Ma. Maybe I will also get to test out Xena and Beelzebub, or Bubba as I like to call them. But for now, we're gonna try out Ma. Now Ma, this freaking disgusting ass hero or whatever, is going to be a free obtainable unit for everyone, which will either be a fusion or a fragment summon on global. And I'm not sure which one, but either way, he will be free. He will be pretty easy to get because all of the fusion and fragment summons in this game are very easy. So that's pretty hype. And Ma gets a pretty bad rap because in the past, he used to kill your entire team due to a bug. But since that has been fixed, he's a pretty decent hero. And there is one area in the game where he's actually S tier, which I will elaborate on in the future. So, number one, he will not be full skilled for these tests, so keep that in mind. I do not recommend any of you full skill him with crystals. Skill crystals are kind of hard to come by, and I do not recommend you use him on Ma, and Ma doesn't really need him that much. So I will be reading the skills, and we're going to go into some testing. I cannot test Gear Dungeon 2, I really wanted to, but he does have a pushback, which will be kind of interesting, so definitely give him a try there if you do not have Edith, but that's for something in the future. So, number one, he has the most basic attack, and his talent is every basic attack launched has a 25% chance of inflicting bleed upon the target, so he will be a free bleeder. Free bleed option might give him some viability in certain things like Arbiter of Frost if you do not have anything really good, but I assume Vladoff will still be much better for the uptime. Now, he does have something called the Bloody Shove, which is why I think he might be usable in Gear Dungeon 2 Stage 10, because you do need a pushback unit. Now, each basic attack has a 15% chance to deal 150% damage to one enemy, knocking them back with 2x strength. This is the normal knockback that everyone has who does knockback. He does have 20% chance when max skilled, and he also does 50% more damage to targets inflicted with bleed. So his kit does work pretty well with certain bleeders, which is really cool. I like that they're trying to introduce more poisoners, bleeders, all of these things, because maybe eventually the damage over times will not suck ass. Now, we do have this, which is when killing targets, the hero's damage and max HP goes up by 8% permanently, stacking up to 4 times. It will go up to 5 when fully skilled. And then the ultimate is really interesting. This is what makes Ma become essentially a legendary version of Gluttony, where the hero executes one enemy within range, doesn't apply to elites or bosses just like Gluttony, and gains these boosts after a short delay, which is attack speed plus 60, it's plus 100 max skilled, and then plus 30% attack for about 15 seconds when max skilled. Pretty interesting ultimate. Really good for a certain amount of areas in the game, like for something like Void Rift Phase 2, the ones with the golems. That is a really good area to use something like Ma in, and his stats are also pretty good. So let me go and grab the base stats. We're going to go over to the gallery, we're going to go find Ma, and then look. Now here, he has very high HP, almost 30k, a little under 6,000 attack. He has some normal defense, and 2.6 attack interval. That is the basic stuff. His rage regen is pretty basic, definitely interesting, and the attack interval is what pretty much every fighter has in this game. So something really big I forgot to mention while going through his kit. What a lot of people forget to talk about is his block is freaking 1. It's the lowest block in the game, tied with Aatrox and Giselle. This is so bad. Like, this alone makes him a pretty mediocre unit. I'm still gonna test his damage output and stuff, but just based off of this, he's not a good fighter. So just a heads up there. his stats very, very high, which gives him a lot of viability in something like GvG Guild. And you might have noticed I deliberately didn't talk about his bond skill, because this bond skill is the bond skill with the Demon Captain Ma. We do have normal Ma, and then we have Demon Captain Ma, and he makes Demon Captain Ma a lot better, and he's going to be, like this character here, Character Ma is going to be essential for GvG Guild. Not just for this, but also for his BP, which I will elaborate on in a second. But for now, let's talk about why this is so important. So if in GvG Guild, if you didn't know, Ingrid is a freaking menace. And Ingrid's main counter, if you could even call it a counter, is Ma. Certain teams can only be beat with Ma, especially in high-level GvG Guild in this current meta. And you can only use Ma 3 times. Demon Captain Ma, what he does essentially is he does a big stab, just like the character's ultimate, which ends up doing a very, very large amount of damage. And a lot of the times that can be the really important thing to kill certain tanks, because tanks are very hard to kill in GvG Guild, because you're facing Brokiers and Cyrus with Unyielding and all of this stuff, with Lily and Carnelian, all of that. Ma really helps break through to that. Ma is the 50k blood reward if you do a 50k blood Guild Boss run, and everyone is going to be able to have him when they're a bit further into the game. Now, Ma has a flaw, which is that he can't be used every time. And what the character Ma helps it with is he allows them to be used even more. And something that Demon Captain Ma can also do is they bait out Ingrid, because they're a big body and they can kind of, their hitbox goes through the tanks, so it'll trigger Ingrid's single target. That's not important. That's really complicated. But just know that Demon Captain Ma is essential for GvG Guild. And this allows Demon Captain Ma to be used one more time. So you get 4 attempts out of the 8 per fight. That is very good. So if you care any bit about GvG Guild, Ma will be the GOAT. Ma isn't just good in GvG Guild for his bond skill. He's also really good for his BP. Now, because he is not max skilled, I cannot really show his pure potential in terms of BP here, but big thanks to War Guides for sending me over these screenshots of how high he got his Ma on test server, and as you could see, it's pretty damn high. So at A0 he can get 105 to 110, depends wholly on your gear of course, but he still gets very high. Fighters do naturally get higher due to their base stats and the fact that Wailing Skull is the best artifact for BP outside of high level exclusives. And for the average player, this is going to be sick. If he ever gets added to the pool, which personally I don't think they should, but if he ever does, then you're going to be able to get him to A5, which is going to be close to 115 to 120k BP if you optimize it very well. And for a normal unit, which if he was added to the pool, he would be, that's very high. So I don't think he'll be added to the pool, so getting him Awakenings is probably not going to be something that happens. But, I mean, Crowdor's in the pool now after his banner drops, so anything could happen, right? Now, outside of GvG Guild, for all of you non-GvG Guild lovers, is he really that great? And I think to find the answer, we have to quickly go and test him. Honestly, we just gotta test him. So, number 1, I want to show you guys how he works. So we're just going to go into Gear Raid 2, and I'm just going to show a pretty rudimentary example on his stab and on his normal attacks. So let's go over here. I got just Ma in here and Elwyn. Let me just show the gear off in a second. This is some pretty solid gear, as you could definitely tell. Obviously, you want him with more HP if you could, because, he has a lot of it, but it doesn't really matter, right? And let's just go into it and show off how he works. Then I'm going to try him AMR, Guild Boss, test out his damage output, and then find some areas where I think he will be useful. So let's just quickly go into it. So Ma, we're going to place down, and then we're going to place down Elwyn. I am using Elwyn just so he gets a little bit of rage regen sooner, because I want him to actually get his stab off on the second enemy to show it off. But let's just see. He's doing some pretty decent damage, obviously. And we're just going to see his stab in a second. And here we go. I know it's not the best example ever, but this stab will essentially one-shot anyone he hits. And as you can see, his DPS output is not that bad, right? He's doing some decent damage. He puts out some bleed as well, which is good for bleed synergy. And it's decent damage at the end of the day. Like, it's nothing too insane. It's nothing too exemplary. But for a free unit, that's not bad at all. So that is the first test I wanted to do. Now the second one I want to do is AMR. We're going to have no pod. It will be AMR 18. Ignore the later stages. I want to test him first of all with Wrath. We could use Torador, but I want to keep it a bit more consistent because, you know, Torador kind of has more RNG in him. And then we're going to try just Maw, and then we're going to try him against Jira. I will give Jira an Isolde, and we're going to keep it going. I do have to bring Constance, and I do have to bring a healer, because otherwise he will die with the current build that we have on, and I assume Jira will also die. But we're not actually going to be triggering Constance ult. I just want to put Constance on the team for a little bit of ground healing. So we're going to put that down here. Keep in mind Ma will do slightly more damage with a Wailing Skull, but we'll give the same artifact and gear to Jira pretty shortly. I'm also not going to place any Nightmare Ground units if I can help it, just because I want to get a little bit of a consistent amount of damage off. Now, here, I'll put Jira just because, once again, I don't want to put too many Nightmare units. I just want to get a quick, you know, example. And as you can see, he's doing about 70 to 80k per hit. Every time there's bleed out, he will do more damage, and you will also see some damage ticks. Every once in a while, he will do that big hit that you can kind of see up top, which will do quite a bit of damage. Now, right when this guy on the left comes down to the left unit, I will stop the fight, and then we could see where we are damage-wise. So he did do half of the boss on his own. Gear is pretty solid, once again, but, you know, that is the best test I can do while I am currently sleep-deprived in the morning, so cut me some slack. He did some pretty substantial damage, and that's pretty good, honestly. For an Epic Lord, pretty good gear, all things considered, but, you know, just in general, that's not that bad. And let's go over to Jira. So alright, so now let's try just quickly Abomination to try to see if Ma is at least around Abomination level, and let's just see where we are. So same exact setup as before. As you can see, Abomination is doing a little more than Ma is, but it is still very, very close. So with the status effect, they are doing pretty equal amount of damage. Keep in mind this is an A2 Abomination versus a Ma, but 2 free units, they should be doing pretty well. And then Abomination's ult is going to come out and probably do a lot more. So my main question is, are they about the same? Probably not. And yeah, let's. I'm kind of disappointed by Ma's damage. Yeah. I mean, as you can see, Abomination is going to be doing about, I don't know, 10-15% more. Yeah, around 15% more. He is doing pretty decent damage. So let's check the damage numbers. Ma did about 5 mil. Jiro just straight up killed the boss ASAP. Abomination does about 7. So as you can see, Ma damage test against like single target, he kind of sucks ass. Let's be real, guys. I mean, he won't be the worst, and he is not max skilled. I don't know if Abomination is max skilled or not, but like, you know, same gear and everything. I mean, Abomination's not even like vaguely max skilled either. Abomination's just gonna be better, right? So this goes to show that Ma kind of sucks. And I mean, he does do his ult, and that didn't get to show his ult. But just in terms of the basic attacks and stuff, and single target boss damage, you should never be using Ma for boss damage. That's what we've learned. But so I'm going to quickly test him in one arena in single target. And then I'm also going to test him in guild bosses. I'm not going to show the run for guild boss. I'm just going to show him in an actual team versus something else. The main issue with Ma is he actually has two issues that make him really bad. One is his ult can only work on normal enemies, and at that point, he's probably going to kill those normal enemies pretty easily anyways. And at that point, the damage he's doing, it's single target, and it's outclassed. Like, Abomination was doing more damage, and Abomination just AoE occasionally, right? So automatically he's worse. His bleed up time, you're not going to use that in a lot of areas. So it is not something that you really want to take into account. And then his stab thing, at this point you would just use Gluttony. And you might say, oh, but Ma's at least better than Gluttony. At that point, I'm not too sure. Like, sure, on the test, if we were to get some actual kills, then he would do more damage single target. But there's not a lot of areas you're going to get that to apply in a way that's actually meaningful. So Ma just like suffers from a lot of different issues to the point where he's not going to be usable in a lot of things. But let me just quickly try the arena. I'm not going to compare him to anything at all. I just want to put him on a team alone with maybe a Torador. This is peak Ma right here, so keep that in mind as well. And then I'll put like Volca and, you know, Sorzus or something. And then I will bring Elowin for healing. As long as he's geared, we are fine. Yep. And keep in mind, we have low BP. Oh my god, it always resets. I'm actually going to bring someone else who might be pretty high in BP, like Magnus, just to kind of try to balance out the opponents, which is going to be about what you expect. And let's just quickly see how good he does on single target. Now, he is more expensive than Gluttony, which means you cannot use him in the same way in single target. Gluttony, for those of you who don't know, in early single target, you place him right here, where my cursor is, because he can actually be placed there, because he's only 14 cost. But here, we have to use Ma over here. And now, Ma is also going to have a bigger ultimate. He's going to cost Skill Crystal. I honestly would say Gluttony is probably a better unit than Ma. And Ma also has a single block. Lunacy Visor is probably better for him. Let's be real. But he just suffers from a lot of different issues. So overall, I mean, Ma is not a must pull. I would honestly just recommend you don't pull for him, personally. Which, wait, he can't be pulled. I would recommend you go for him purely for the Guild v Guild applications. If you can find a use for him, definitely use him. But from what I am seeing, you're not really going to have much use for him. So, you know, that's just what happens, right? Pretty normal stuff there. These things happen, but he's pretty damn mediocre. So, that's that. I'm going to quickly test him in Guild Boss 1 in an actual team. Show it on the screen right here. And to kind of close it off, obviously his single target is bad. The places where his stab would be good, he's just straight up outclassed by Gluttony, which is obviously not something you want to have happen for obvious reasons. Because if he's getting outclassed by an epic who does the same thing, you know it's real bad, right? So, outside of maybe the Gear Dungeon 2 viability, which I would have to test, and I don't have any keys to test it, I don't see any way that he's really going to be that good. And also, to give more points to Gluttony, at least Gluttony will use his ult on elite or boss enemies and just do a bit of extra damage. Ma just keeps his ult, which is really annoying. So, I don't really see many areas where you would use him, to put it simply. So, that's everything I wanted to try, you know, just some quick testing. Ma, does he suck? Yes. Is he amazing in Guild v Guild? Yes. He's going to be a must-have. You're going to really, really be glad to have him if you even vaguely care. I know a lot of you don't like Guild v Guild, and that's a-okay, but Guild v Guild is a lot of fun. So, thank you guys for watching. I do appreciate it. Make sure to like and subscribe if you would like. And that's it for me. So, Destined signing out.